Hello and welcome to In the Rising podcast. My name is Bettina Brown, and this is the platform that I've chosen to talk about living a life that's in alignment with your hopes, your dreams, your goals, turning your back, walking away from shame and blame that does nothing to advance your life, to move that needle forward for you. I had a great conversation with Lindsay Dunlap as she describes her experience that brought her to exhaustion, even though the experience was all done in love. But she found herself and thereby found a new path, a new life purpose for part of her journey here. And I'm so excited for you to listen. Lindsay, thank you so much for your time, for being here on my podcast this evening for us. It's an evening.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. So you wrote Your Wife, Mother, and Business Owner, and you shared a very personal story. Would you like to share that in your own words?
Yeah. So when I saw the title of your podcast, In the Rising, I went, yeah, that speaks to me, because my journey of kind of rising up was really a catalyst from my husband's accident. So I am a farm wife. So my husband and I have been married for 11 years. And in 2014, just before our 5th wedding anniversary, we were celebrating. We had a 3-year-old son. Our daughter was born in July of 2014. And then on December 1st of 2014, my husband called me. It was a Monday morning. I was at work and he said, I think you need to come home. I think I just cut my leg off. And I went, are you kidding me? And he said, no, honey, I'm not kidding you. Like in the most eerie, calm, like total shock was just flowing through his body. And in that moment, you don't know what's happening. You just like kind of run. You just, everything kind of goes on autopilot and you're like, okay, this is what I'm doing. So that was December of 2014. And he lost his left leg below the knee in the farm accident. And we're sitting in the hospital and the doctors say, hey, 2 to 3 months, he'll get fitted for a prosthetic. He's fairly young. He was in his late 30s at the time. And it's like, he's fairly young. He's pretty active and, he'll be okay. In January of 2016 is when he got fitted for his first prosthetic. So we went 13 months without really even considering this. He battled MRSA one time. We had a beautiful plastic surgeon who wanted to support him. But that took a lot of reconstruction because it was a traumatic amputation. And there's just a lot that goes into that. And again, I was working full time outside of the home. He had doctor's appointments out the yin yang. And I had 2 small kids. And that unconsciously, you just pour yourself into that. You're like, every ounce of me has to go into this. Because everyone needs something from me. If, we had 2 dogs, it's just, there's just always somebody needing something. So luckily, he did, after he got his first prosthetic, he did have MRSA a second time. So then we went kind of backwards a little bit. And there's a lot of this, like, I can't take one more thing. And why, all of those questions. But we finally got on this routine. We finally got on this, like, okay, so he's back to work. The kids are getting a little older. And I started realizing that with everyone being a little bit more self-sufficient, I didn't know what to do for me because I hadn't had that opportunity for 3.5 years. And so that's where kind of my transformation started to happen. And I started looking at, where can I shine? Yes, I love my family. Yes, I always tell people I wouldn't change my decision in a heartbeat. It's not like I would say, forget this, I don't want to be here with you. What I recognize now is that I had more of a say there. People would always ask me, how do you do this? My answer would always be, I don't have much of a choice.
Yeah.
Now I look back with things that I have learned and work that I've done on me and for me, is that I do get a choice in everything. And when you make that a conscious choice, there's so much less stress, there's so much less anxiety, there's so much less overwhelm, because you had a say. And then you also recognize that if you're not happy with how it's turning out, you get a say in that too. So there's a lot less of that victim, a lot less of that, why is this happening to me? When you start making those subtle shifts. So
Yeah.
I know that was a long-winded answer.
Well, no, we have to get the context,
Yeah.
and because you've been through it, and I'm in healthcare. I know what MRSA is, but I want to just identify for people who don't know that this is a infection that is resistant to one of our main antibiotic classes. And so you run the risk. And for some people, it's a different antibiotic. For some, it's a 6-week course of antibiotics. It just depends on the severity. And
Yes.
you have to dress up. It's contagious. And so it's not a small deal. And when you have small children, you also have this other thing that your husband that you love, you want to attend to, but you have to be cautious that you don't give what your husband has to your children, and you remain healthy. Because when we're fatigued, our immune system is down. So that's a huge, huge thing there.
And my husband's type 1 diabetic also.
Okay. And so the healing process does not work the same way. So you're more susceptible to having needing more time for healing and needing more time for plastic surgery, making sure all your diet is okay. So it's not just traumatic, not that that's not enough, but it's not just a traumatic event. It's, well, what now? Can we even heal to get the prosthetic? And that is a long time, 13 months to get there. And so that means any walking, you're literally one leg is gone. What has been there for decades is now gone. And that's a mental shift. That's a mental shift for your family, for you. So it's not just a farming accident. It is a whole life change. And and a lot of people, when we lose a limb, we lose some of our identity as well, and have to reshape our identity because it was in a certain body shape. And so all of your family went through that. Then you added that you came to a point when you were thinking about, where can I shine? Because I looked up when especially women, especially wives, especially mothers, that we tend to put ourselves further down. And there are 3 main classes. And one says, you have lost touch with your own goals, passions, and life purpose. And it sounds like you found that. And was it a one day, Lindsay, where you're like, I lost touch, or was it like a gradual shift?
I think it was, and again, I learned more of this as I kind of look back on how all these pieces go together. I think it started with just kind of like sheer exhaustion of saying, I need a break. I kept telling my husband that, and I was like, I need to get away. I need to not have responsibility. So he took me on a beautiful vacation. We went to the beach, which for him just wasn't as enjoyable anymore. I know that was solely, his way of trying to say okay, you deserve a break. So you have that kind of start of sheer exhaustion, and just it starts as almost this resentment of, why can't someone else do this for you? Like, I'm not the only person here. And I know any mom can relate to that. You have another parent in the household, stop calling my name all the time or anything like that. But the moment I remember I started setting my alarms on the weekends, I would wake up early, before my kids would wake up so I could have a quiet cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. And I could just like sit in silence. I would let my dogs out and I would just be able to sit and have some coffee. And I picked up a devotional book and I just kind of started flipping through that and just kind of letting myself investigate. Mm-hmm. And then I remember one morning, I just had this thought, like this very clear message of go be a coach. Like, I remember that statement, go be a coach. I didn't even know really what I was going to be doing at the time. So I have an HR background. So I have heard of executive coaches and understand the concept of it. But that was so crystal clear of knowing that, yes, I shine when I get to support other people. And by recognizing then the choices that I have of where I can support other people and how I do that best, like, again, like where I was having more and more resentment of, can't someone else do this? Like, I'm tired and are you never going to be able to do anything on your own for my kids? And that's different because now I recognize, like, to me, to be a support person in any way is what I'm good at. Like, that's what I'm here for people who want to take action. That's what I always tell people coaching is all about. Coaching is about taking action. There's just magic that happens over time when you start kind of taking that self-discovery journey. So that moment was where I will pinpoint of, that's where it all started unfolding. But again, there's little snippets here and there that just kind of flash back every once in a while. I go, oh, now I know, that makes more sense now. So,
yeah. And then so you didn't know much about coaching but say the process of how you became the coach you are and what kind of coaching are you working through?
Yeah. So when I had that kind of epiphany, I just started researching different types of coaching programs because for me, it was really important to have some structure and have some education behind it. I didn't just want to wake up one day and say, hey, I'm a coach, come work with me. Mm-hmm. Because for me, I wanted to represent myself in a way that had some backing and some tools and resources to support my clients. So I found a program called IPEC, and it focuses on core energy coaching, which is really focusing on the fact that, I mean, it sounds a little woo-woo and people think I'm a little crazy sometimes, but it's science. We're all energy. I mean, we all have a certain amount of energy that we get to use. It's about how you use it. Are you using it to tear yourself down with that worry and that stress and that frustration and the sadness? Or are you working to build yourself up? Or are you using it in a way that projects that core of who you are? Are you focusing on what's happening to you? Or are you focusing on what you get to create in a day? There's two very different energies there. So I went through that program. It was a year-long course. And I got to be coached. So I got to be, I worked with peer coaches and I got to have peer clients and just really kind of unfolding how I wanted to support people. Mm-hmm. And it's evolved over time, even now. So I finished that program about 3.5 years ago. And there's been different subsections of who I have supported over that time, but who I have really been pulled to and who I really love to support are those stressed out moms. The ones who have those moments of, I love my family, but I love my family, but I also love my job, or I love my business, but I feel bad pulling time away from my family to go work in my business, or I'm a bad mom because I love my job.
Mm-hmm. And that
Says
makes
who?
that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I want to highlight that, because not everyone, we hear more about coaching, and because I'm now a life coach myself, having gone through this process, it is not a weekend little course. Like, I'm glad that you said the time. This is a full certification. There are many different kinds, and you can look and there's, subsections, but this is something that someone dedicates time to learning, because it's not about trying to be a therapist and figure out your whole past. It's where are you now and what about your future?
Yes.
And with that energy term, because we are sometimes afraid to talk about energy because we're like, well, it's kind of woo-woo. And that's true. But on the other hand, true science is backing up that, emotions are energy in motion, that you can feel, you can be with someone and you're like, I just feel energized. I'm excited about whatever. And then you just see somebody else and your shoulders slump and you're like, I'm already drained. We use it in our language. So if we think about what we use in our terminology, the truth is in our gut, right? The truth is there. And so when you're talking to, you said your subset are stressed out moms, having been a stressed out mom and having had the week of last week where I'm like, I know you have a dad. But being in that position where you only have so many minutes for so much, and where can you put a finite amount of energy in and still receive the joy from that? And a lot of times we think to do one more thing is going to be more exhausting. But if we do something that brings us joy, it's like invigorating. And so tell me a little bit more like the client, what you see and where they come from, maybe like a mini case study.
So a lot of things, and I've kind of been leaning into this idea of women are always looking for balance. We always want to have, this work-life balance. And I'm even listening to a book right now. It's called The One Thing. I wish I remember who the author was, but
I've read that book.
Yes. So it's really funny because even in that book, I heard him mention that like the term of work-life balance only really became popular in the 80s when women started going more into the workforce, because women used to be at home. So there wasn't a need for balance because there was always somebody at home. There was someone to go to work. And now that moms are going to work, now there's this need for balance. So, we talk a lot about what does balance look like to you? Because we have this vision in our head, this expectation that's not even really clear of, I'm just overwhelmed. Okay, so what does not overwhelmed look like? So what you don't want. You don't want this feeling that you feel right now. What do you want? And usually the first answer I get is, I don't know. I just don't want to feel this way. Perfect. That's a great place to start. And so we start getting to kind of peel away those layers of really getting to those values. I love doing like values assessments and just really kind of evaluating what's important. And not even what's important, but what is your priority? What are those non-negotiables? Kind of that compass that gets to guide you. For me, family is a value. Honesty is a value. I'm not going to really want to spend time with people if I don't feel like they're being honest with me. And before, I may have felt bad because, well, I'm supposed to be nice. I'm supposed to be the person who likes everybody. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm clear on a value of honesty, I feel so much more secure to say, thanks, but no thanks. Because it's not serving me. It's not allowing me to be the best version of me that can then go and use my energy in more productive ways. Mm-hmm. If I'm putting myself in a position with someone or something that doesn't align with me, I'm draining my energy for no good. Mm-hmm. So just that recognition of what are those values and how can you highlight those? How can you align with those on a more regular basis? And the other thing I love to tell my clients is, listen, you didn't get here overnight. So you're not going to flip a switch and all of a sudden be this like new version of you tomorrow after one session. That's not how this works. So you kind of fall in love with each step of it. Gratitude for me is a huge piece to that. Finding those wins, finding those things to be grateful for every day, even if it's just the fact that you woke up, that there's always something, because like attracts like. What you focus on expands. You continue to look for those, you continue to find more of it. And then, the compound effect rolls in and you just get more and more of it. So.
Absolutely. And yeah, to think about, it's almost like the saying, you are who your 5 closest people are, like a representation. Yes. And you think about where you are and are you okay with it? Is it satisfying? If it's not satisfying, the only one who's responsible for changing it is you. And that means you have more power than you thought you did.
Yes.
We don't always like all the choices, but they are what they are,
Yeah.
So you said.
And sometimes kind of one of those things of, okay, so maybe it's a lesser of two evils in one situation. It's not all going to be sunshine and rainbows. You don't become a robot when you have this self-awareness, but you then get to learn what those emotions are telling you, because it's all information.
To yourself. Yeah. Yes. Listening to yourself. Do you feel that moms tend to forget to listen to themselves?
110%. Because there's so much noise. There's so much going on. And we are judging ourselves based on what we see other people doing. Mm-hmm. But we also don't have all of their story. We don't know what the support is that they have at home. If, I am not a Pinterest mom. I am not, I'm not artsy. I'm not, I'm not going to be making the like beautiful Valentine's Day boxes or anything like that. And the moms that do, again, a couple years ago, I would have been like, God, I suck. Like, I should be able to do this. But now I get to recognize, wow, they have a gift. Like, they're really talented. And so am I. Not in the same things, but we're both very talented. So.
Yes. I have I call her now my sister. She's a very good friend. And she never has in her entire life bought any baked good for school. Like she will be up.
She's not my people.
And I'm like, I will never be that person. And she's a great baker. I really love consuming her food, but I'm just like, that is just never me.
So yes, you can support her in that dream.
And tell her, great job, make some more. I'll buy some, but I will not do that. Where are you going? Like, what is going on with your business? What programs have you have coming up?
Yeah. So, in October, starting in October, I have a beautiful community starting. It's called Getting Back to Me, my inner circle. So this is going to be kind of a combination of all of the one-on-one support and kind of unpacking of all the stuff that we get to do, because as moms and women, we get to just kind of pack all of our emotions in, and we like to push it down and say, never mind, until somebody pushes that button a little too many times, and then it all explodes, and then you feel bad, and it's on this vicious cycle. So the first 2 months of the program, I get to do one-on-one coaching with each participant. As part of my coaching certification, I also became certified in an assessment called the Energy Leadership Index. So each participant gets to take that assessment, and I get to do a debrief with them. And it really just gives us that starting point of, how are you showing up? What are your triggers? Are you happy with that? Yes or no? Okay, where do you want to go? So that gives us our foundation. And then throughout the year, so it's a year-long program, and then we'll move into group coaching. I've got different friends who are coming in as experts, a nutritionist to really talk about just healthy body. I had that kind of epiphany of, it's not about whether I'm losing weight, it's about how am I fueling my body? What am I putting in my body? So I know I'm feeling the best I can. So I know that plays a huge part. I've got a friend of mine who's a declutter expert and just talks about how we just fill our lives with stuff and how that's energy draining. I have a friend who is an expert in human design, so she's going to come in and talk about that. So I just get to give all of these experts to really help this community understand who they are outside of the mom, the wife, the employee, the business owner, whatever it is, because these are ambitious women. They want to do more, but they keep stopping themselves for one reason or another. So being able to go through all of those throughout the year. We're going to do a retreat at the end of the year, bring everybody together and just celebrate, because it's going to be one heck of a year. So we start that in October with the assessments and the one-on-one coaching. So that's what I'm really passionate about right now.
That's really awesome. And it sounds like you are really helping women identify with who they are on a molecular level, soul level, woman level, not just the roles that they're filling, but as people themselves, because we can identify with our job, right? We think we are the HR person. I am the physical therapist, but that is what we do.
The labels are easy, right?
Oh,
because it's how you introduce yourself.
Yes.
Oh, tell me a little bit about yourself. Oh, well, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. You rattle off all the labels, but who are you? Puts a whole nother spin on life. And we don't generally take time to answer that question.
So Lindsay is the all-around woman, the wife, the mother, the business owner, and she is using her experience to help transform the experience of others, really transformation into what I always say at the beginning of my podcast, a life that is filled with joy, in alignment with your hopes and dreams. Well, to get to alignment, we can often and usually benefit from a mentor. That is what a coach is a mentor. To have someone who's been there, done that, help guide you, because they're a little further away. It is really something that every single one of us can benefit from. So I encourage you to check out Lindsay Dunlap. And if you enjoyed this podcast, I ask that you go ahead and share it. Put it in the hands and ears of someone who really will be able to transform because of the words that Lindsay discussed today. And leave it a positive review. It does so much to In the Rising podcast, and it helps put the word out there, right? We got to start changing things. And until next time, let's keep building one another up.